Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here, and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 10 team selection, where I've already made 3 free transfers. We'll discuss them today, we'll look at the team overall, discuss some of the injury concerns that I have as well, and also, we might be captaining a player that isn't Erling Haaland. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, let's waste absolutely no time at all today and jump straight into the Game Week 10 team selection. And as I said in the intro, I've made some early moves. I made 3 free transfers, all 3 of my free transfers on Sunday night. That might not sound like a big deal to some people. Lots of people often move early. If you've watched my content for a while, you know I'm a huge advocate of not making early moves for 2 reasons. So much can go wrong midweek, and it often does, and some of the moves that I would have planned, I end up changing, but also, your thinking can change throughout the week. It might be on a Sunday night you want to bring in X, Y, Z, and by the time Friday swings around, you completely changed your opinion. Or it might not even be that the players that you bring in or were going to bring in get injured, but maybe someone else in your team gets injured, and that offers up another route in terms of where you can go with your transfer. So basically, I never make early transfers. This is my 4th or 5th season on YouTube. I've got no idea at this stage, but in my time on YouTube, I can count on my hands the amount of times that I've made moves that early, let alone 3. So this was very rare for me. So you might think, why did you make those moves? And of course, I'll discuss which moves they are when we look at my team. I was going to be priced out. Obviously, I've got 0 in the bank. So these moves left me 0 in the bank. And if I waited across the entire week like I usually do, I stood to lose about 0.4, 0.5 million. Now, there were still things that I could do with my team with that. But rather than going for a 4.5 million defender, it would have been going all the way down to 4.1 or maybe even a 4 million defender. And that's not the end of the world, but that feels like quite a big downgrade. Or rather than going for my midfielder of choice, I might have had to go somewhere else there. So it just didn't feel worth the risk when I really wanted the 3 players that I brought in. And we're going to discuss that because, hilariously, one of the players that I brought in is now flagged. And that is just classic FPL this season, finding new ways to punish me. But we're going to discuss all of that today. If you enjoy this video, like I said, please do drop a like on it. And if you're new to my channel and this is the first time you've seen me, firstly, welcome, but please consider subscribing. So, let's start with the goalkeepers. I've got Nick Pope and Dubravka. Very happy to have Nick Pope this week. I mean, obviously, if you've got David Raya sat there, you're also probably very happy against Burnley. But what I like about Pope is he makes saves. Even if it's an easy fixture on paper, Newcastle just concede more shots than someone like an Arsenal. So he'll get less clean sheets than Raya, as we've seen across the last couple of weeks. I brought in Nick Pope for Raya a couple of weeks ago to free up a spot for Saka, because I already had my triple Arsenal. And in that time, Raya gets back-to-back clean sheets and Pope doesn't clean. But at least he's making the saves, because you know when you do then go and get a clean sheet, it's going to be at least a 7, maybe even 8, 9, 10 pointer. So, yeah, I'm really happy to have Pope in. And against a pretty blunt West Ham attack, there's a reasonable chance for a clean sheet this week. And I, of course, don't have a decision to make about whether I play Dubravka this week because he's got Arsenal, which is nice. So, let's discuss the back 3, because at the moment, the one player that just looks really good in there is, of course, Gabriel against Burnley away. I do think he's a genuine captaincy shout. Like, when you look at what you want from a captaincy option, a high ceiling. Gabriel has an incredibly high ceiling, clean sheet potential, defcon potential, although in a game like this, you wouldn't imagine the defcon will be that high, but great for baseline bonus. In the last couple of seasons, he's really stepped it up, even above Saliba for baseline bonus. Goal threat, assist threat. He's just that guy. And like, you would say that a clean sheet is very, very likely against Burnley as well. I just never feel fully comfortable captaining a defender, because as much as, yes, he does have goal threat, he might get defcon, you do need the clean sheet, and all you need is one silly error from anyone. It doesn't have to be Gabriel. Let's say the ball just slips through David Raya's hands, and then that's done. And yeah, you can still get a goal, but you would obviously expect your attackers to have a higher chance of scoring. So if you are super confident in the Arsenal clean sheet, which in all fairness, you probably should be, I really don't mind him as a captaincy option this week. So yeah, I would have him at least the 3rd best, maybe even the 2nd best captaincy option. Let me know if you're considering it down below. My other 2 defenders then are both flagged, Chris Richards and Joachim Andersen. And I did bring in Chris Richards this week for James Tarkowski. That wasn't because I disliked Tarkowski. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. I actually quite like Tarkowski as an FPL option. He's just very expensive, and I needed exactly $1 million to free up to bring in the midfielder and forward that I wanted to bring in for the ones that I wanted to sell. And it just so happens that obviously, therefore, a downgrade from Tarkowski to a 4.5 made a lot of sense. And for me, the two best 4.5 million defenders in the game are Joachim Andersen and Chris Richards. I already owned Andersen, so Richards made sense to me. And I did really want to get a Palace attacker. Palace defender, I should say. Of course, yes, Richards is now flagged. As soon as I brought him in, or a day after I brought him in, we get the news that he wasn't going to be involved with the Crystal Palace team midweek. But Oliver Glasner did say in that pre-match press conference that he's pretty confident that Chris Richards will be available for Brentford. So if we take him at his word, he should be fine for this weekend. Even if he's not, I promise this isn't copium, I actually don't mind too much. I don't think Brentford at home is a perfect fixture, and I've brought him in for the long term. When I now look at my defence, I am so happy with it, and I ideally now don't want to make any defensive transfers for the foreseeable future. I either want to start stacking my transfers back up or use them for more aggressive moves in the attack. So I'm really happy to have Chris Richards in. As long as he's not injured long term and can stay fit after this little issue that he's got right now, very happy to have him. And in fact, the fact that he keeps getting rested midweek, I like that. The issue that you've got with bringing Palace players in at the moment, they've got tons of games. Even from the very first game week, Chris Richards just hasn't been played in those midweek competitions, which I don't mind overall, as long as he keeps starting in the Premier League. So yeah, I'm happy to have brought him in. If I'd have waited to make my moves, it would have forced me to bring in someone like Alderete or Mukiele instead. And by the way, with the way that Sunderland are playing and defending, that's not the end of the world, but I certainly preferred Chris Richards. So that was one of the reasons that I went early, to allow me to get a 4.5 defender in there, rather than having two cheaper ones. Well, on Andersen, the news sort of around the Fulham camp is fairly positive on him. And going into game week 9, when we found out that he'd be out, there were suggestions that he might be back for game week 10. I've obviously not seen an update because I'm recording this on Wednesday night. So let's see what Marco Silva says in the press conference. If he's ruled out again, so be it. He would need to be ruled out pretty long term for me to sell him, because I actually think he's better than Richards in terms of 4.5 defenders. Fulham, when he's in the team, have defended really well this season. The fixtures are a bit of a mixed bag, but because he's so good for DEFCON, and he's also shown a bit of attacking threat, I just think he's great. Yeah, like Richards and Andersen for me, even if they were both ruled out for game week 10, I just wouldn't be too stressed, because on my bench, I've actually got two options that I don't mind. Rodon. I wish I'd have played him last week for his 13-pointer when he was sat on my bench. Brighton away isn't a perfect fixture, but he's got DEFCON potential. Leeds are the third best defence in the league this season for expected goals conceded. I'd be very happy if Rodon came on for either Richards or Andersen. And then if both of them miss out, I have Senesi then against Manchester City away. Now, do I expect a clean sheet? No. But do I think City have been playing perfectly? Also no. And he will almost definitely get, you'd imagine, DEFCON in this game. So I'm feeling okay if they both miss out. If they were both out long term, which I don't think will be the case, then we have a different conversation to be had. Because obviously I've got 0 free transfers, and that would mean that 2 of my 5 defenders are missing. But yeah, that's the situation in the defence. Feeling really happy in the long term with this structure. Let's take a look at the midfield. So guys, moving on to the midfield, and we have quite a bit to discuss here in terms of transfers, captaincy, future transfers, benching, all of that lovely stuff. So let's start actually with the player that I brought in this week, which is Ismail Assar. And I brought in Ismail Assar for Tijani Reinders, like I said, on Sunday. That was the one transfer I really wanted to make. I obviously brought in Mateta as well, the man on the thumbnail. We'll discuss him in a second. But the one transfer I was desperate to make was not only because I didn't want Tijani Reinders, and not only because I did want Ismail Assar, but just in terms of general structure, I now look at my 4-man midfield, which is Ndiaye, Sarr, Saka, Semenyo. The price points are really good as well. I'm not having to start a budget enabler each week. And I now look at that midfield 4. Anton Stacks on the bench, by the way, tucked very neatly in as the third sub. But that midfield 4 is everything I want. Like, I'm really, really happy with the 4 of them. And I would like Brian Mbeumo. But on Ismail Assar, he scored a brace against Liverpool midweek on Wednesday. On your screen, I will flash up his performance courtesy of FootMob. And by the way, FootMob are sponsoring this video. If you do not use FootMob, you're doing it wrong. Like, they are comfortably, for me, the best football companion app for live score updates, live DEFCON tracking, by the way. It's so quick. I'm watching it live with my eyes, and it just gets added to the app like that. And also, for non-Premier League games, like in the EFL Cup, you can still track DEFCON to see how the players would have got on. Like, I think Gueye tonight against Liverpool hit 10 DEFCON. I think Lacroix was on 9. Like, oh, I'm very nerdy, but I was tracking it. But listen, It's completely free. It is the best football app you will ever download. I highly recommend it. And yeah, they are supporting the content as well. But if you've not downloaded FootMob at this stage, like I say, you're doing it wrong. But on your screen, you'll see his performance from that game. 0.81 XG, I think the total was. He missed a big chance, scored 2 goals. He was brilliant. And listen, that Liverpool team was very rotated. I will admit that. But the Palace team was also slightly rotated. And he is still playing here against professional footballers. So as much as I don't think he will play defences probably quite that weak and makeshift, he's still a brilliant footballer. He still puts up unbelievable underlying data. His minutes are fantastic as well. He starts tonight and you're thinking, oh, that's not ideal. Is he going to be fatigued? Gets subbed off early after scoring a brace. Like, Sar's an interesting one, right? Because he's not great for DEFCON. Doesn't take set pieces, doesn't take penalties. He's not normally my sort of pick. I like multiple routes to points. And he doesn't even have that much creativity. His routes to points is it's just goals from open play. But he gets lots of big chances because of the way that Crystal Palace play. So I think with the fixtures coming up, with his minutes, and with his ability to get big chances, as long as he takes a few of them, I'm feeling really good about having him. Of course, Enzo Fernandez was the other player I could have brought in, but to do that, I would have had to go for someone cheaper than Richards and move early as well. And I quite like the fact that a lot of other people do own Enzo Fernandez and might not have an easy route to go and get Sar. Obviously, the brace midweek has helped with my confidence in terms of bringing him in. So yeah, that's that on Ismaila Sarr. Iliman Ndiaye is just a player that I love. Every season, I'll own players where maybe their data isn't perfect, or maybe like they've got mixed bag fixtures, or maybe the returns haven't even been that perfect either. But I'm just so happy owning this guy. He's so good at football. And I know FPL isn't about how good you are at football, but it's just nice owning players that when you watch them, you're like, yeah, I have that player in my team. He's like just such an aesthetic footballer. Like, if you've not watched any of Everton recently, I recommend watching the Everton-Sunderland game, because firstly, that'd be a great game, but you'll get a bit of a glimpse about how good he is. Sadly, he's repeatedly let down time and time again by Beto and other players in that Everton team, because he just creates so many chances. But we also want to see a bit of an improvement in goal threat, and obviously sprinkle a couple of penalties in there because he is first choice penalty taker and potential DEFCON. He's just a really, really good asset. We speak about Sarr not having multiple routes to points. Iliman Ndiaye has so many ways that he can pick up points in a given game. So yeah, as much as Sunderland isn't an easy fixture, I'm happy to have him. Antoine Semenyo obviously playing against City this week, not the ideal fixture. Then again, City aren't in the top 3 or 4 for expected goals conceded this season, so it's not necessarily up against the strongest team. And also, I don't own any City defenders, so I don't mind backing Semenyo against Man City away. And after the City game, it's then Villa, West Ham, Sunderland, Everton. It's a nice fixture run. I'm certainly not going to sell Semenyo or bench him anytime soon. I'll finish with Saka in a second. Just to say on Anton Stack, rubbish asset. Don't want him in my team. If I had an extra transfer and more money in the bank, maybe I would sell him. But at the same time, if I sold Stack for someone, even if I sold Stack for like Longstaff or Xhaka, who are the 2 players that I could move him to, it would just give me a benching headache. I would just want to play those players. So as long as I don't need Stack this week, and there is a chance I do, by the way, if Richards misses out and Anderson and I get another issue, then I might have to sell Stack for a -4 to like Longstaff. But as long as I don't need him, I don't mind having a player that I'm just very happy to bench each week. My only issue is I still have the bench boost to play. So if I want to play that soon in the coming game weeks, I will absolutely need to sell Anton Stack. And I'll probably just go to, like I said, another cheap player like Longstaff or Xhaka. So yeah, that's 4 of the 5 midfielders. The final one in is Bukayo Saka, who I brought in for Bruno Fernandes a couple of weeks ago. Very happy to have him for this game week. Again, I'll flash up on the screen his performance from the EFL Cup. He came off the bench and scored within like 5 minutes of coming on. He had 2 shots, I think, in total in that game. Again, screenshots courtesy of FootMob. There is a link down below to download. He was great. And I just think recently, I've been trying to not over-rely on data too much, which is funny because this is like my worst start to the season. I'm trying to incorporate a bit more eye test. And like when you watch Saka right now, he feels like he's on the cusp of a huge score. Like every time I watch him, I'm like, he just looks like he's almost taken another small step up this season into, and I say small just because he's already so fantastic, but he does just feel like, I think it was on the FPLY, they said he's got that big dog energy about him at the moment. I think there is a chance he's on penalties still as well. The only reason I say that, because I thought it could be Gyökeres still on penalties, even though Saka took the one when they were both on the pitch. When Saka went down for the penalty, which was overruled by VAR, he looked so annoyed. And he looked so annoyed, to the point where you're like, I don't think that was just for the team. It was the look of annoyance of a player that was going to take the penalty if it was given. maybe I'm reading into it too much, but with his set-piece delivery, the fact that he didn't play many minutes midweek, the fact that it is Burnley who are the worst defence in the league, I do really like the captaincy shout on him. So at the moment, my armband is on Saka. I don't know where it'll end. I don't know what I would need to see for me to follow through with this, or for me to maybe switch back to Haaland. But I would like to do this, I think. I don't think there are many weeks in the foreseeable future where I see a great alternative captain to Erling Haaland. Because this week, I think Bournemouth are a decent enough defence. And I think Saka has the perfect fixture right now. If it was at home, it would be even better. But he's playing against the worst defence. And he's been pretty well rested. Arsenal are playing well at the moment. I just think everything is aligned to at least offer us an alternative option. And like I say, I think Gabriel is too. So I do think I want to do this. I'm probably 60% likely to at the moment. But I don't want you to be hugely surprised if the deadline swings around and I actually say, do you know what? It's not a risk I want to take. Because again, at my rank, if that then goes wrong, we are talking about a seriously honking start. But on the flip side, if it goes well, this could be the turning point for me. So I'd love to know down below what you think about a Saka captaincy. Are you considering captaining anyone other than Haaland yourself? Or do you think, do you know what, Ross? Just owning Saka is enough. Captain Haaland, enjoy the Saka points if he gets them, and don't have a stressful weekend. I'd love to know what you think. So yeah, the midfield five then. Njai, Sarr, Saka captain, Semenyo, and Stack. Very happy with the starting four. If I could add a player to this, it would be Brian Mbeumo. Brian Mbeumo is the one that I want in the team, but I don't want to sell any of the starting ones, so it would be from Stack to Mbeumo. The only way that I can afford that is if I massively downgrade one of the forwards in the future, yeah. But for now, that's the midfield. Let's take a look at the three forwards and then discuss the team overall. So guys, moving on to the front three, we have Erling Haaland against Bournemouth at home, Jean-Philippe Mateta against Brentford at home. I'm very happy to have him back. I owned him for like most of last season. I even owned him this season, by the way. I wildcarded him out in game week 6 just before he goes and gets the hat-trick. And of course, I do have Victor Gyökeres as well against Burnley away. So there's, again, a little bit to unpack here. So my 3 transfers, to summarise them, and now you can see the entire team. I sold Tarkowski, Reinders, and João Pedro for triple Palace, Richards, Sarr, Mateta. Didn't want to sell Tarkowski, but he did it to fund it. And in terms of selling João Pedro rather than Gyökeres, this was a difficult decision because I think in terms of actual performances, João Pedro is comfortably, for me, right now, a weaker asset than Gyökeres. At least Gyökeres is shooting. Like, that is the bare minimum requirement for a forward. If they're going to score goals, you at least need them to be taking shots. João Pedro is averaging 0.1 XG across the last, per 90, across the last like 5 or 6 games. And we said, cut him some slack. He's not a number 9. He plays much better as the 10, playing off a natural number 9. Guiu is about as much of a natural 9 as you can get. That allowed João Pedro to drop deep into what we think is his perfect position, and he didn't take a shot in game week 9. Like, how much longer can you own a player that isn't even shooting? So I am fully aware, by the way, João Pedro is a great player, might still be on pens, and probably now will go and bag a brace in game week 10 because that's the way the season has gone. But I'm not holding on to a player out of fear of what they might do in the future when they've shown no indication of doing that. I think João Pedro to Mateta was an easy transfer. The reason I say it was difficult, though, is actually downgrading Gyökeres would have freed up more money, right? Because obviously I had to upgrade João Pedro to Mateta. So downgrading Gyökeres instead and actually keeping João Pedro would have freed up money and also freed up an Arsenal slot to either get Declan Rice in midfield, who's very underrated, or go double Arsenal defence and go and get a Yuri and Timber. And a lot of people did say, I prefer that route, Ross, and I get that. I just slightly preferred this option here. I wanted Ismaila Sarr in midfield. I thought João Pedro was weaker than Gyökeres, and I quite like the fact that I am backing against the herd still with double Arsenal attack. Is it optimal? No. Is double Arsenal defence or triple Arsenal defence probably better? Yes. But I'm happy across the next few against Burnley, Sunderland and Spurs. I reckon I'll almost definitely keep Saka and Gyökeres for those. And then moving forward, if Saka's not doing it and not showing the goal threat and output that I need, I can downgrade him to an Mbeumo. If Gyökeres at that point still looks terrible, lovely stuff. Downgrade him to Walter Marda. I've freed up 1.5 million. I have options. These two can be used as cash cows moving forward, either one of them or both of them. But I do want to just give Gyökeres the Burnley game. I've had it as a gut feeling, or not even a gut feeling, it's kind of like logical. You're keeping him for the best fixture in the league, and I wanted to do that. So yeah, I sold João Pedro instead to Mateta. Before we then discuss like the front three, in terms of owning Triple Palace, I don't have an issue with the fact they've got loads of games. I don't have an issue with owning a team that might get fatigued. I'll deal with that when it happens. As of right now, Palace are unreal from an FPL perspective. They don't score that many goals. And I know they don't keep that many clean sheets, but their players, like their points are really concentrated in a few areas. Yes, Crystal Palace don't score many goals. They don't from open play. I think they've had the same number of open play goals as Burnley or something this season. I'm sure I saw a stat like that on Twitter, which isn't great, but they're concentrated on a few players. They don't have goals coming from all over the gaff. It's really the defenders that you want to own, like Gay and Munoz, and then the likes of Mateta and Sarr. So I'm very happy to own the players where a lot of the goal share goes to. And then with the defenders, they've either got attacking threat with Munoz, they've got DEFCON potential with Richards. Like, I just think the Palace players are great from an FPL perspective. The only issue I have with bringing in Richards, Sarr and Mateta is I've now blocked myself from doing something like in the future, Senesi to Munoz. The reason I don't have a huge issue with that, I'm not selling Gabriel unless he gets injured, and if he does, I'll go to Timber. So Gabriel isn't going to be my route to Munoz. I'm not selling Anderson, I'm not selling Rodon. So my only two routes really to Munoz would be Richards or Senesi. On Senesi, after the City Villa games, they've got a great run of fixtures, and I still think Senesi is one of the better defenders in FPL. So I don't really want to sell Senesi as much as Munoz is one of my favourite players in FPL. So I think my only route to go and get Munoz would probably be in that Richards position, in which case, yes, it's an extra transfer going for Richards, then Munoz, but I'm not having to do like a double move to pivot to be able to get Munoz in my team. I would just have to free up the funds from somewhere, like a Gyökeres downgrade, and then I can get Richards up. So if I massively regret this, because Munoz got another assist tonight, by the way, against Liverpool, and if he continues to return, Richards doesn't look great, then yeah, I'll have to find the funds and do it. So basically, I'm very happy to have brought in Triple Palace. I know it's not particularly conventional, using 3 free transfers to bring in 3 players from a team, but I just rate them very highly. That was the big mistake on my Game Week 6 wildcard, was not going for Crystal Palace assets. Yeah, and then in terms of the front three, Haaland's great, might be my captain, might not. I need to make a decision there. Mateta this week, I think Brentford have been a lot better than I expected them to be, in all honesty. Like, a lot of people had them pegged to go down, and as much as they're not like top 4 or anything like that, they've certainly performed better than I thought they would at both ends of the pitch. So I don't know that that's necessarily a perfect fixture, but he was fairly well rested midweek. He came on at halftime. A nice run of fixtures coming up against the likes of Wolves and Burnley in the next 5. Very happy to have him. And then, yeah, like I said with Gyökeres, this is the game I kept him for. If he disappoints me again, it's gutting. And to be honest, if he's really bad again, I might sell him. And I've seen the pictures and videos of Havertz being very, very close to return as well. And that obviously brings into question his minutes. So Gyökeres' time isn't going to be very long in my team, but I'm hoping he can finally repay the faith with a score against Burnley. And hopefully, Burnley managed to nick a random goal. I know that sounds strange because I've got Gabriel, but so many people have double Arsenal defence. I wouldn't mind if they concede. Hopefully, Arsenal win this game like 7-2. That would be great. And hopefully they're all goals for Saka and Gyökeres. So yeah, that's the 11. I'm really, really, really happy with the team. I'm so glad I made the 3 transfers I did. This is the most I've enjoyed looking at my team in ages and the most I've enjoyed FPL because I just made the transfers that I wanted to fix my team and be happy with it. Because now I look at it, super happy with the goalkeeper situation. Those 5 defenders, other than not having Munoz, who I'd love, but he's expensive, they are, for me, 5 of the best defenders in FPL at their price points. The 4-man midfield that I've got, plus unfortunately Anton Stack, super happy with. And that front 3 for now is great. So what this basically means, I think, moving forward, because there's no extra section today, it will just be this. I think Gyökeres down and Stack up. And this team is so good for me, at least. Like, I'm really happy with it. If I get Gyökeres, in fact, if I can get the bench boost out of the way, like Gyökeres down to a fodder and then Stack up to Mbeumo. Like, imagine if Stack was Mbeumo and Gyökeres was fodder and it was a 3-5-2. That's a cracking team at that stage. I'm very, very happy. So, yeah, I'm delighted with the team. I'm glad I made the 3 free transfers. I think we're moving in the right direction. I just need a green arrow. I need some luck. I'm not saying I've necessarily been that unlucky, but I've also not been very lucky. I will take having the jammiest week ever. I don't even want to deserve the points. I would just like some of them. So that is the team. Let me know what you think of the transfers. Let me know what you think of the team overall. Key thing that I would like your opinion on, captaincy. We'll discuss it in Friday's video as well, but would you captain Saka, Gabriel or Haaland? Do you think Saka is a viable option? I'm not considering Gyökeres, but I might just, like I say, you know what? I've got Saka. If he gets points, I'm happy, and just captain the highly owned asset and do a bit of damage limitation. But that is a boring way to play FPL. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 10 team selection. Hopefully you did enjoy, and if you did, please do smash that like button and make sure to subscribe as well. As I said throughout the video, it has been sponsored by FootMob, so if you've got to this point and you've not got FootMob downloaded on your phone and you want to support me a little bit as well, completely free. It genuinely is the best football app out there by some distance. I've been using it all season, even last season too. So there'll be a link down below to download FootMob. I'd highly appreciate the support, but until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.